Hello everybody, I'm Perry. Today I'm with Eddie Stone, the founder and the CEO of Touchstone Essentials. Hello Eddie.
Hi Perry, I'm glad to have a chance to talk with you today and appreciate the chance to speak to your listeners.
Yeah, me too. How is everything over there? Busy as usual?
It is busy. We're in the middle of, I live in North Carolina, which is the southern part of the United States on the east coast, the Atlantic Ocean. And so we are in the middle of our summer, and it's hot. You know, Fahrenheit, it can be 95 to 100 degrees during the day and quite high humidity. So we're in the heat of the summer.
Okay, Eddie, I would like to start the question, okay? And these questions mostly are from my viewers with Kenton, okay?
Okay.
The first question, okay, can you please respond to the theory about alkaline water and whether or not it is good for us?
Well, I think the theory behind alkaline water, based upon my experience, and I do on occasion buy alkaline water. You know, I have a positive impression of it. I think there can be some contribution to health, but it is controversial because oftentimes people that are selling alkaline water products or machines that produce alkaline water, they speak about the health benefits in very strong terms, and such that it might, in their estimation, cure or treat or mitigate disease. And I think that the science surrounding that is just unfinished. And so it may, in fact, have a benefit or an impact on those kinds of diseases that's being described, but there's not the hard, peer-reviewed research to sort of make those statements definitively. And so you've got to, in my mind, you've got to think about that. For those that don't know a lot about alkaline water, so you've probably heard about people talk about your pH, and if you've got a pH of 1, that refers to something being very acidic, and if you've got a pH, say, of 13, that would be very alkaline, and the range is between 0 and 14. And so we tend to think of people that have a really acidic diet, a really acidic disposition, that can often be associated with people that consume a lot of really processed and cooked foods, being acidic and more likely to develop disease. And, you know, in my personal estimation, my opinion, I think that's true. I think not managing that is a risk to one's health and makes them more vulnerable, certainly can impact the immune system and how the gut, the digestive works, and that affects negatively your human biome. So I don't want to go too deep into that for the listeners, but we tend to think of people eating less processed food, less cooked food, more greens, particularly fruits and vegetables that are very rich in minerals. We tend to think of them as being more healthy, having better gut health, less issues associated with acid reflux. But you've got to be careful, because if you just had a steady diet of just these high alkaline, high pH products, and they had too much of a dramatic impact on alkalizing the gut, you might lose some of your ability with acidity to fight certain bacterials and pathogens that you really do want to dispel out of the digestive system and not allow to get into the bloodstream. Now, setting aside the fact that generally we think of the commercial access to pH water, such as buying it at your local grocery or even buying a machine that produces it, my apologies, you can also alkalize your own water. This is going to be a little counterintuitive for your listeners, but you can do it by taking fresh water and adding lime or lemon juice, which at first you think, oh, how can that be, right? Because those are very acidic to the taste and in terms of their disposition. However, they also contain a lot of minerals, and from a general statement standpoint, mineralizing that water in that way with the fresh lemon or lime will actually cause the alkaline level of that water, the pH, to go up. And so that's the way you can do it if you don't have access to one of the more commercially available either bottled waters or machines.
Eddie, but there's so much information out there, you know, we don't know who we should trust.
You know, Perry, I completely empathize, because being in this business really my whole adult life, I really face the same situation. And as a consumer, and also from a business owner standpoint, you know, one year it seems like you read an article that says this is a certain amount of health habits you should adopt, you should pursue. They might say eggs are bad 1 year, but all of a sudden, a couple years later, they say eggs are good.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a situation where they might say, well, coffee's bad, and then all of a sudden, coffee's good. And so I tend to seek a little bit of middle ground. Things are probably never as extreme as they seem on one side or the other. And I try to look at the source of the information. If I can find university sources or even private institutions where there is no profit motive behind the position they've taken, then I tend to trust a little more. So in general, my theory is, or what I've adopted for myself and my family is, we'd like to maintain as alkaline a body and lifestyle as possible, because we know that that's useful, but we don't want to go too far and carry it over the top, because we respect the fact that there's still research that can be done to help us further make those decisions about how much alkaline water we need to drink.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Eddie, I will start with the next question. Okay, this question comes from my viewer too. Okay, and if you can give us more information, she asked a question like, could you please help an American veteran to heal? He and many others were vaccinated with and bombarded by depleted uranium. One young man on YouTube's Stony Stone is a single parent of a 7-year-old son, and he is dying from radiation. Perhaps within a year, his son will be alone in the world. I don't know if you have any products or any, information to share with us.
Let me just make it as a sort of a general statement, and then you may very want to share with your listeners a link to an article that we have on our website, published on our blog. Excellent third-party credibility and information included in the article that just talks about, in general, the impact of cesium and strontium, radioactive materials on our health. And I think all of us, you don't have to be a biochemist or a doctor to recognize that radiation, we know, can be dangerous, not only in the moment where it can kill people from acute issues, kidney, liver failure, things of this kind, but we also know that it damages the DNA. And anytime you start damaging the DNA, one, the aging process accelerates, and then vulnerability to disease. And typically we think of really cancer as being a real problem there when people. So the story that you shared from your listener is heartbreaking, and I understand it's you don't know always where that person lives, medical information associated for that person, what advice that they've been given. But what I've learned over time is that historically zeolites have been utilized. This is part of our interest in zeolites, because our products we produce, we use them ourselves, as well as it's what we sell and advocate for. But part of that is because the zeolite, and we've discussed this on the show before, it has a cage-like structure and it maintains a negative charge. And so that means that mineral, much like the south end and the north end of the magnet, it's attracted to opposites, right? And so in this case, it maintains a negative charge because of its natural structure, and then it's attracted into heavy metals, environmental pollutants that we've talked about, cadmium, lead, mercury, things of this kind. Well, the good news is, from a cleanup standpoint, cesium, strontium, these radiations that we're talking about here, they have a positive charge. And so in the same way, cadmium, lead, mercury, things like that are attracted to the zeolite, and the zeolite can aid the body in getting rid of it. The same thing is true there. And so it's very beneficial in that regard. It has a very broad, beneficial sweep of getting rid of even things like volatile organics that are positively charged. And when we think about this, a lot of people probably think of Fukushima a few years ago in Japan. And of course, we know from test results and data, both from government institutions as well as private public institutions, educational institutions, that radiation, it sort of depends on what you look at in terms of information, but some estimate as much as 80% of that radiation floated across the Pacific. And so along the way, it's contaminating fish that are offshore. And those, of course, migrate. So, they have found radiation they would attribute to that catastrophe in Japan and the California bluefin tuna. And so it's something we have to think about, because it impacts rainfall, then of course it impacts the soil, then of course it impacts the food supply. And so I'm those that are listening to me for another time or a second time, they know I'm an advocate of detoxing, just like you can pay attention to nutrients, and that's because of things like radioactive materials that can wind up in our world, and that's just part of this price we pay for modern living and sort of the modern lifestyle and the chemicals that we use.
And like in the case of Fukushima in Japan, okay, with this radiation, like how long people should take zeolite for?
Well, no, I'm not a physicist and not necessarily the person with the complete expertise here on regarding radiation, but radiation has a very long half-life that extends well beyond our lifetimes. Mm-hmm. And so this radiation is going to be there, and it's going to be a constant issue for decades, if not in some ways, maybe centuries. It may be centuries before that site where this tragedy occurred can be really revisited and inhabited. And so it's a problem that lingers in most cases well beyond the lifetime of us as the listeners to this show. And it's interesting, the zeolites, I tend to talk about them only in terms of internal use. They were actually used at the site, just like they were used at Chernobyl when that similar tragedy occurred. And so they'll airlifted powdered zeolite. They've given it to cattle. They've given it in cookie form to children. Used it in the land to help clean up plants. But the bottom line is it's difficult to clean up this radioactive set of issues. And so I don't think we can really escape at least some level of exposure to toxins. And so that's why it's just a strategy, me day in, day out, a systemic approach to good health.
Mm-hmm. So like zeolite, it is safe too, right? Like we can take it as long as we want.
It enjoys grass status. It's got a very, very long history, really thousands of years of human consumption. Mm-hmm. There's no contraindications that certainly that I'm aware of. I've been around this a long time. I do feel like I would have been exposed. I think the concerns can be the types of zeolites. And there are some zeolites that are not fit for human consumption. In fact, they're dangerous. And so sheet-like zeolites like clinoptilite that we use, we test to make sure we've got the right mix and purity of it, that there's no unsafe elements associated with it. This is what we know of in terms of human consumption and safety and having a positive, healthy benefit and aiding the body in detoxification. Then, of course, we believe you need to go out there and clean it. That certification material is available on our website. We do not believe that just raw powders that haven't been certified and cleaned are the best approach. And then, of course, we think about size. And so you've got to have the right zeolite. I think it's got to be prepared the right way for the body.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And the last question today, Eddie. I would like to know more about CBD oil. I think it can help for people who's having cancers too, right?
Well, I've certainly seen that mentioned and discussed, and I've heard the individual stories, I'll call them the anecdotal stories of individual persons going under cancer treatment that talk about it having a favorable impact on their ability to endure the radiation therapy and other things that they have to go through. And so I've heard that before. I've heard from individuals and physicians that believe it has had a positive impact on treatment associated with cancer, but we're really not in a position to say that, and it would almost be like referring to alkaline water, except I believe in the case of CBD oil or cannabis, we know a heck of a lot more and can have with greater confidence and knowledge that it does have a positive impact on health. And so for those that don't know a lot about it, I need to say this up front, we as a company are going to introduce a CBD oil product that will be a part of a product line coming up in August. It's been something that we have been students of for a very long time. A couple years ago, we really would have liked to have been in this space earlier, but it's been difficult from a legal standpoint. And some of my colleagues that were selling it a while ago, they really forged away there because it struggled from a legal standpoint. But now it's really legal with few exceptions almost around the globe. And it's really good to see because it can have a lot of benefits. So for those that don't know, and we tend to think of marijuana oftentimes when we talk about things like this. And then I'll hear people say, well, CBD oil comes from a different plant. Well, the truth is It's the same plant. If we kind of break it down from a biological and agricultural standpoint, it's the same plant. But we all know that plants can be bred to grow and produce different things. And so industrial hemp comes from a family of that plant that would not have any THC in it, any psychoactive effects, and frankly not any real health effects. It's going to be used for garment production, textiles of different kinds, rope. You tend to think of rope and hemp, so that's out there. And then there is CBD oil, which comes from another part of the plant. In this case, again, no THC, or the level of THC is so small by legal standards that it would not have a psychoactive effect on the body. What makes people attracted to it and where the health benefits come from, and there's a whole lot of discussion here, but you have cannabinoid receptors in your body, in your endocrine system, and they're there. And absent of, say, an abundant supply of the good material to go in those receptor sites, stress or other hormonal complications can occupy those receptor sites. CBD 1 and 2, we might refer to them as here for the sake of this discussion. And so CB1, CB2, when they're misoccupied or out of balance, your body's out of balance. And so you're going to be more likely to have disease states, and vulnerable to illness. One of the real benefits of a quality, clean hemp oil product with CBD oil in it is that it will help to bring balance to the body. And I'm sure for a lot of your listeners looking for balance or homeostasis, they would recognize as being sort of emblematic or symbol of having good health. If you're in balance or homeostasis, your immune system is probably working more properly, mental state is better, and so that's that place of harmony. Sometimes in almost in a religious type setting, you might hear about a state of Zen. Well, this is that internally, and we know that CBD oil, hemp oil, that's proper can help to bring balance. Specifically, it can have an impact on homeostasis and the immune system in terms of real getting specific to the work. But I mean, it's a subject matter that your listeners could dive into all day long. But they just need to remember that then what we think of as cannabis or hemp, that is, or not hemp, cannabis, marijuana that people smoke or use to get high, two separate animals here. And even though they come from the same plant. And so the medicinal side of it, from what we would work with from a nutritional standpoint, would be hemp oil that's rich in CBD. So that's probably long-winded there, but I hope that helps.
Mm-hmm. But in this case, it is your product CBD oil. How to take the CBD oil? I'm curious too.
Well, you do see CBD oil available in balms or salves or creams, and if they're made properly and have the right milligram count, they can really bring relief to sort of acute pain associated with joint pain, stiffness, things of this kind. Very popular. If you spend a lot of time, or any time at all, I should say, reading reviews of good quality salves or balms, they're powerful and it's almost life-changing for some people in terms of dealing with joint pain, stiffness, and things of that kind. You also see it available in capsule or tablet form, but that really gets very specific in how it should be made, and so it's got to be the right size. We're talking really nano sizes here. And for some people, that's going to be difficult because of digestive issues or problems, and maybe not as easily absorbed into your body. And then another way, there's multiple deliveries. Some people would use vaping devices. I struggle to think of, vaporizing an oil or something and taking it into your lungs and impacting lung capacity as the best way to get it. I know it can be effective, but I worry about that long term. I really like, as a preferred delivery method, the tincture, which is where the CBD oil and other cannabinoids and terpenes, benefits of what we think of when we think of this hemp oil, are used with carriers such as coconut oil or even hemp seed itself, and you put them in your mouth under your tongue. And in the case of the product we're going to be introducing, we have several, but one of the primary ones I believe the most popular to be a 750 milligram product where you take a half a tincture. So think of the little pipette you have in a bottle, and you take half of that, put it on your tongue, and just hold it there until it's kind of gone. And then you can swallow, and a good product will dissolve pretty quickly. Maybe some people, because of what they're dealing with or their body size, maybe they need a whole tincture for a whole pipette for a dose. But I really like that because most of the people I deal with, and this is true for me, I see the impact within minutes. And I'll not recount all the stories I've heard. There's a lot of them out there. But for myself, I work a lot in the evening hours. Maybe there's a few people listening that have that sort of same thing. So all of a sudden you're working well into the evening. When it's time to go to bed, you're still really up and energetic. And so how do you go to sleep? And some people will turn to a glass of wine. Some will take medications or narcotics. I'll tell you, I find that the CBD, put it under my tongue and give it 10 or 15 minutes, and I'm just relaxed to the point, because I know CB1 impacts the central nervous system. I'm relaxed to the point where I fall asleep quickly and easily and get a good night's rest, wake up ready and fresh for the next day. And so I'm a big fan. I want to say that right up front. I'm a big fan of what CBD, hemp oil products and CBD can do, and excited for us to be able as a company to put our own stamp on it with a clean product that we know will have a positive impact on people.
It make us feel good, so maybe we want to take it every day, Eddie.
Well, there would
is it like addiction?
Yeah, no, it would not have an addictive quality. I mean, no more say than you need air if you're addicted to air, right? To breathe or food or things like this. But in this case, you're just providing yourself a healthy product that have a positive impact on a daily basis. And there's no addictive qualities that anybody's aware of. I've not seen anything to suggest that you would benefit from using it every day much like would other nutrients or agents that can have a positive impact on the body.
Okay, Eddie, thank you very much for sharing very good information with us today. I see you next time.
Doctor. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you for watching, everybody. See you on Galactic Update on Thursday. Bye-bye.